Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. So I did think for a moment that this podcast was maybe a little bit too vulnerable to share. And then I thought, well, why am I even having that thought? Gaining 10 pounds is perfectly normal, and that's what I'm kind of trying to normalize. And honestly, I am almost 33, and I don't think people realize how our lives change decade to decade, whether gradually or suddenly. You get a new job, you move, you have a baby, whatever it may be. And for me, I've been in higher education for the last 4 years after spending my life in a gym, not just training clients, but also training myself during my break 4, 5, 6 days a week. So all of a sudden, going from doing that and also serving 3, 4 days a week and getting my 15,000 plus steps in per shift, I recently have, shifted into a much more sedentary lifestyle. I've been doing 1 day a week workouts rather than my normal, and not getting as many steps as I normally have been. And, all of the confounding factors that are super, super normal in different seasons of our life. And I really wanted to touch on what my plan is and what my thought process is here, because I think that it's important to normalize this type of thing and to realize, as a health coach, that my body size doesn't necessarily mean that I am not a good personal trainer or that I don't know anything about nutrition. If anything, it allows me to have more insight into what led to my weight gain and how I can handle it if I choose to handle it. And that's the kind of thing that I'm going to be talking about today. So, first of all, the biggest thing is noticing what has changed recently. And one, again, I quit my serving job. 2, I'm in school, and this semester my schedule is just super duper crazy that I am not somebody who's going to work out at 8 p.m. I'm just not that person. Or if I wanted to work out before my clients, it would have to be at 4:30 or 5 a.m. And again, I'm not that person. So I just have been skipping a lot more workouts than normal. So this change in my behavior, plus the stress and a little bit of my mood, has shifted, hence the weight gain. So putting it into context, that makes sense, right? And so I'll talk a little bit about that and my mindset around that. But also, here's what I'm not going to do. So noticing this recent weight gain, I, for one, notice it because my clothes are a little bit tight. I can see it in the mirror. I can feel it, that type of thing. But also, I stepped on the scale and I'm like, oh, yep, okay. I think I'm at the end of my luteal phase when I did step on the scale. So of course it's going to be a little bit higher, maybe at different points in my cycle, but it is a little bit higher than it normally is. And again, I can feel it, I can tell, I can see it, but it's not a big deal. It really isn't. I don't think anybody notices. I'm still fitting in my clothes, right? So even though things are a little bit tighter than normal, it's not like I need to go buy a whole new wardrobe, nothing like that. So putting it into context and realizing you know what, who really cares? Nobody gives a crap. That is really helpful. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to panic. I know what has changed. I know what I need to get back to, and worrying about it too much or trying to overcompensate is going to backfire, right? Or is going to add to my stress, which the stress is why I have gained some weight, because I'm stress eating and because I'm trying to disassociate and just take naps and sleep in rather than go to the gym. Let's just be honest here. I'm also not going to diet or cut anything out particularly. However, I have been lately saying yes to the sides like chips and fries and a soda, right? Rather than choosing diet or choosing water or just like skipping the fries and getting just like the burger. So, like, I know that I've been eating a little bit more than normal and choosing more calorie dense foods. So I can just like stop doing that. So, things for me that is pretty easy. Like, if I really am craving fries, I'm going to get fries. But again, recently I've kind of increased my like small order fry to like a medium, and I've been getting like a regular soda rather than a diet soda, and those are the things that do add up. So going back to my normal, okay, I'm going to even choose like a small size latte rather than grande or even a 20 ounce, which I did the other day. And I was like, oh, Kayla, this is why. So again, I've noticed I've definitely increased my appetite and my portions. So just kind of being more conscientious of that without necessarily counting calories is really helpful because I'm cutting calories again without necessarily like having to track everything and weigh everything. I'm also going to go back to, making sure I'm getting fruit and veggies at all my meals because as I get stressed, I just let these things kind of slip from my mind. And instead of, again, saying no completely, I'll just go back to what I normally do when I'm like really paying attention, which is I still have like a night or two where I have pizza or I go out with a friend or something, or my boyfriend cooks us, some pasta or something like that. Like, it's not like I'm depriving myself, but I'm not just going to be getting like Jersey Mike's every night or not that I'm doing that, but I definitely have been eating out like 3-4 times a week rather than like my normal 1 to 2. So again, I've like gradually increased my calories lately and I know I have. So that's the really helpful thing here is that I'm able to be a little bit objective about it. And that's kind of like the first main point that I really want to point at is like the first main point to point at. Let's go and point at it. Point. Okay. So looking at my mindset first, reminding myself that it's okay. It's normal. It doesn't define my worth. It doesn't define my career. It doesn't define my credentials as a health coach or a fitness professional. And I can recognize the change in my behavior and be objective about that and put it into context without necessarily like just letting myself go or being too hard on myself. Like there doesn't need to be an extreme here. It can be in the middle ground where I can look at it and say, oh yeah, I have kind of changed what I normally have done for the last decade over the course of the last 5 years, and then particularly over the course of the last 3 months, if not a little bit longer than that. And so realizing the change in my behavior allows me to create a plan that replaces those behaviors. So instead of serving and getting my 15,000 steps a shift 3-4 times a week, I need to be taking more walks. But I don't want to be making the cardio about getting a certain number of steps or getting cardio because like I hate my body and I want to lose my little love handles. It's more about, okay, what if I set a goal for improving my VO2 max? I was talking to some gym members the other day and found out another person had like a VO2 max that was 10 points higher than me. And they're definitely a lot older than me. So, well, maybe not a lot. I don't have to worry about them listening to this podcast, I don't think. But I was like, oh, damn, I should probably increase my VO2 max because that's not very, impressive. And so being able to do that and having a goal that's not like, I'm not a runner, I'm not going to go into a marathon, but like, how do I want to motivate myself to be doing cardio? That's not just focusing on my body size, right? But it will help. So just looking at that as like a second bonus thing rather than the main priority definitely helps. And then again, like just making sure that I'm keeping up with my lifting workouts and I'm progressing in my weights. I've definitely been like, I don't know, I've been enjoying the extra weight that I've been having because then I'm a little bit stronger in the gym, I think. So I'm going to use that to my advantage and actually push my limits and push my PRs and all that good stuff. So hopefully I can use this extra 10 pounds as a little bit more oomph in my lifts. And then again, that'll kind of result in a heavier lift, more muscular gains, and then not necessarily being a little softer as I have been lately, which is really interesting for me as for, 10, 12, 15 plus years, I've dealt with this a few times, like where I definitely notice like, oh, a couple pounds or like I'm a little bit softer right now. And it's, again, usually not a big deal. It's usually temporary for me. But I also know that me getting older, like I need to make sure that I am paying attention to these things. And it's not because of me having to be a certain size. It's more because I know it's a reflective change in my behavior that results in that change in my body size. Now, again, if I was pregnant or something, there would be another context clue for gaining weight, but like there's not a reason right now for that. It's just because I have changed my routine. And that's why it's so important to realize like, okay, my mindset is not, oh my gosh, I'm so, out of shape and my pants are feeling a little bit tight and look at me, I'm so ugly. Like it's not about that at all. It's more like, oh shoot, like I have only been working out once-ish a week rather than my normal 3, 4, 5 days. So that has definitely been catching up and noticing that and realizing like I need to make sure that I'm keeping that up. But also, thank God that I was able to even do one time a week. So I also recognize my wins in that I was able to maintain. But my maintenance was pretty high. Like if I was going to if I was going to maintain what I was maintaining at like 25 years old, that was very different because again, I was training in the gym. I was always on my feet. Had a big break in the middle of the day that I could work out and be really active. And then now I am in a desk all day long. So it's just realizing that these things might happen suddenly or gradually, but it's not necessarily permanent. So seeing that as I'm giving myself context for the behavioral change, being objective, not being judgmental. I'm also realizing that I can highlight the fact that it's the routine that keeps me in check, right? So even when I'm trying to get somebody to start healthy behaviors, really what we need to figure out is how does this fit into your routine? How does working out fit into your week, fit into your days? Because if right now you're waking up, going straight to work, coming straight home, taking care of kids, doing this, doing that, like when are you going to be working out? So like that's the hardest part of figuring out how to be this fit person that you want to be is how does it fit into your life? So the fact that I decided to go back to school and my normal workout time has been disrupted by, seminar and taking classes. It's one of those things where I just have to, lean with it. And yeah, I could have been the person who worked out at 8 p.m., but I also valued my sleep because otherwise I am a cranky bitch. And also, I'm not going to be doing very well on my schoolwork or with my clients if I'm chronically sleep deprived, and then I will get burnt out even faster. So I chose to go home and relax and go to sleep a lot of the time. That doesn't mean that I didn't have to push through other times and be disciplined, sure, but I did give myself a little bit of a break, and I'm not going to be feel guilty about it because I needed it and it worked out. So here's my game plan for getting back into my routine. First of all, now that I have more time, the semester has ended. Next semester doesn't look so insane and I won't be in class like all day long. I have a little bit of a better schedule in my head. So that's a little bit of an advantage there. And it's not easy, but it's doable for me to get back into my gym routine of 3 to 4 times a week lifting. And then because I'm going to be setting a VO2 max goal, I can work that into, doing cardio once or twice a week. That's a little bit more intentional versus just like walking or getting my steps, but also keeping my steps consistent. Because definitely I get like on average 7,500 steps a day, but it's more because some days are like, 12 to 17,000. And then other days it's like, I didn't leave my house. So getting more consistent with that will probably be more helpful. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm eating more at home. I'm watching my beverage and my snacking calories, choosing diet sodas if I feel like a bubbly, things like that. Making sure that maybe I have only one sweet treat at home at a time, because variety or like eating at like a buffet is going to increase your amount that you eat as well. So if I have like 4 different treats in my house. I want like a little bit of everything, and then I end up eating way more. So being able to only maybe do one time a week would probably be more helpful with that. And again, not feeling restricted, still allowing myself that stuff, but being more mindful about it, not just eating out of the bag or eating because I'm stressed or eating in my car and with distractions, like just slowing down and being a little more mindful. That's typically what ends up slipping for me. And then I'm just like, wait, I've been eating a lot more than normal and my portion sizes are more than normal. I'm eating faster than normal. So slowing down and, paying attention to those types of things usually is where I need to be. And as much as this may or may not be relatable for some of y'all, I know that it's like we start to notice the weight gain and it's easy to have this all or nothing mindset. Oh, I'll just like wait till the new year or whatever. F it. I've already gained 10 pounds. What's another 5 pounds? Like it's literally this sabotaging type of behavior. And you may or may not actively think that way, by the way. I used to think certain things like, well, I don't really think that. But then my behaviors, I'm like, well, maybe I do kind of think that. Similar to, wanting to finish the things that you have in your house so that you can be better tomorrow. I found myself thinking about that because I noticed I have gained some weight. I've noticed all of a sudden I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I should like reel this back in a little bit. And that's the discipline that you need. It's not about going hardcore, white knuckling, throw all this food away. I need to up my cardio 7 days a week. And people end up like jumping into this like super intense plan. It's just about reeling things back in. And yeah, I might not lose like the 10 pounds in the next 2 weeks. That's not the goal. It's just to kind of bring myself back to a place where I'm comfortable being and my clothes are comfortable. Cause right now it's not, again, about like necessarily feeling confident. It's about feeling comfortable in my freaking pants and not feeling like, oh, I only have pants that fit me if I'm like during a certain 2 weeks of my cycle, none of my clothes fit. I need, a little bit of wiggle room. So I always try to encourage people that, yes, you should love your body at all the stages, these kinds of things. But also, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to lose a little bit of weight or tone up a little bit or have a certain aesthetic that you like to uphold. And it's not because you're vain or because you are, motivated by diet culture, but yeah, maybe you could argue that because I'm a personal trainer and a health coach, I do have an image to uphold. But again, I don't think anybody would necessarily say that I look out of shape right now. I literally was asked out earlier today at the laundromat. I was said, you're a pretty lady. You want to catch a beer later? So apparently mama still got it, even at 10 pounds overweight. No, overweight, over my usual weight, I should say. But again, it's just more about where I'm feeling more comfortable in my body. And it's more of a reflection of the behaviors that have changed recently, right? So it's not necessarily that I need to be smaller, but it is something that indicates I have not been as active as I normally have been. I've been stress eating. I've been, not able to sleep as well as I normally am because of my stress. So all of these other factors are definitely more of the root cause and what I'm going to be looking at. Maybe looking at different ways that I can reduce my own stress, like taking a yoga class or whatever, or art and reading, right? It doesn't always have to be like activity. Sometimes the best thing is not necessarily just being more and more active. Sometimes your stress levels needs less activity, but I have noticed a big change the last, probably since like the beginning of August or like maybe mid-August when school started. And again, I quit my job serving, so my activity dropped and my stress levels increased and all of the things. So cut yourself some slack when this stuff happens. It's also like wintertime. It's cold. It's dark. It's hard to want to like eat a salad when it's dark at 4 p.m. You want the cozy comfort, right? We are just like bears and we want to eat all the food so we can hibernate for the winter. So give yourself some grace. I'm trying to give myself grace. I try to remember this every time that I go through this because again, this isn't the first time it's happened, but I do kind of reel myself back in so that it doesn't go unchecked for too long. And then next thing you know, I'm 10 years later, like, oh, where did this extra, 50 pounds come from? So if you can catch it early, that's kind of the way to go. But anyway, I hope this helps to give you some insight into what my mindset and my plan is for, again, I don't even want to make this about like how I'm planning to lose my 10 pounds, but I think it's just more of that insight of, oh, when you have gained 10 pounds, like look at what's changed. I just recently had a conversation with a client who, same thing. She's like, I feel like I've gained weight a little bit and nothing crazy, but just a little bit. And I was like, well, you are gaining some muscle, so it could be that. It could be also just that it's winter, it's the holidays. And she recently, 2 weeks later after this conversation, she goes, oh, I realized that I usually take the dogs on a walk. And my husband's been doing that because he's been home at a different time than normal. And so he's been taking the dogs instead. So she didn't even realize that just like this change in her habit of not being the one to walk the dogs in the evening has probably increased her weight by 5 pounds over the last month. So or I think it was like 2 or 3 months. But that's the kind of thing that like sometimes we just don't realize that there's all these other things happening. And then we try to like beat ourselves up over it, or we sabotage ourselves because we feel bad or we feel guilty. And in reality, just take a step back, see the things that have changed, see what you can change, see if it's, something that you can manage. I hate telling people that it's just stress because of course it's a snowball effect, right? The stress affects the sleep, which affects the appetite, which affects the movement. Like there's all these other branches and it's not just one thing. It's not just your hormones. It's not just your behaviors. It's how they impact each other. So I hope this gives you some insight and I hope you are having a wonderful day. So I will see you in the next one. Bye. Thanks so much for being here, friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag me over on Instagram or leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Your support means the world to me and only helps me get the No BS news out to more people. If you're interested in working with me in nutrition or personal training, check out my programs and courses on my website at kaylamariefitness.com and on Instagram at kaylamarie_fit. See you next week.